Let's talk about Unbound XL. What is it?
Yeah, so Unbound is an awesome gravel race that happens in Emporia, Kansas. What's really cool about the event, in my opinion, is there's something for everybody there. They have a 25 miler, a 50 miler, 100, the more premier event, which is the 200 in terms of the amount of participants. And then within the past 3 years, I believe it is, they introduced what's called the Unbound XL. That is a little bit different in the sense that it's a fully self-supported race. And that one starts on Friday before the 100 and 200. So being that it's a fully self-supported event, it's a bit longer than the 200, obviously. So
hold on here.
Ideally,
how long is it?
Yeah. So this year was just over 350 miles. But being that it's, like I said, fully self-supported, you have to be strategic in the sense of you go through these little remote towns of Kansas, and some of those towns their gas stations may be only open until midnight or 3 a.m. So you really have to plan out your route and your pacing and everything like that to make sure you hit these resupply points, because as everybody knows, Kansas this time of year can be hot and humid. And if you run out of water out there, you can find yourself in a bad way.
So this is like almost 575 kilometers for those. So for those listening across the pond, this is a huge, and I can actually call it a day because of the hours in which you finished it in. But this is a huge undertaking. You have to navigate yourself, right? Like there's a course, but there are no course markings. Is that correct? You're the one that has to follow the route that you put on your GPS?
Yeah, correct. So they released the course just as they do every other course. And it's your responsibility to upload it on your GPS and be able to navigate properly. So that can be a little stressful. You have to make sure you do your homework on that. But yeah, being that it's 350 miles, I think people assume that everybody that signs up for this, they know they can do 350 miles. And I just want people to know that these long races are incredibly daunting to me as well. Before every start of these, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, it just seems so terrifying. But you break it down, right? It's like this big adventure on a bike rather than this quote unquote race. And I like to think of it that way rather than a race.
Yeah. So this is, we were joking around actually in a group chat with that this was really easy for you because it was only 22 hours because it wasn't 24 hours because you do 24-hour racing. 24-hour mountain biking is really kind of like your niche, like your specialty and what you focus on. But yeah, you were able to do this in 22 hours. Is that correct?
Yeah, just under 23 hours.
Holy
So
cow.
It was a long day on the bike, and it's no matter what you do out there, it's just tough. And it's like I don't really care what discipline you're doing out there. If you're doing the 50, the 100, 200 or XL, like it's tough. Like those conditions out there are super, super tough. The wind is harsh. The elements are harsh. The rocks are sharp as ever. So yeah, it's just it's a mental battle regardless of what discipline you're doing out there.
Yeah. How did you prepare for this? So, and this may, as a caveat to this is kind of in terms of the longer stuff is what you train for regularly. So you weren't going from being like a crit racer to suddenly having to flip the script. Mm-hmm. But still, how did you train for Unbound XL?
Yeah. So I had a little different training leading into this event. My main focus this year was a 24-hour race in Tucson called 24 Hours in the Old Pueblo in February. Unfortunately, that was canceled, just like many races have been in the past 12 months. So that was really the primary focus. And once that was canceled, I was pretty let down. So I kind of had this pity party for a few days or a week, didn't ride my bike much, just kind of reset. And then I had set my focus on this personal challenge called the Arizona Trail 300. Being that it's local to Arizona, I figured perfect timing, right? We hadn't had much snow this winter, so the higher elevations were pretty much dry. So that was my main focus. And unfortunately, I had a pretty serious crash in March, about the week before I was supposed to do this Arizona Trail. So that really set things back. I spent a day in the hospital, had some surgery. And the worst thing, and the thing that really held me back, was the concussion. So I really had to kind of adjust my plans. And being that happened in March and Unbound happens the first weekend in June, I thought, I can take time here to recover and then hopefully just have some fitness and mental capacity at that point to line up at Unbound. And so recovering from the crash was a bit of a process, both physically and mentally, but slowly but surely I was able to kind of get back out there and focus on these longer rides, which I really enjoy doing. People assume that I ride way more than I actually do. They assume that if you're doing these 24-hour races, you're riding 8, 10, 12 hours at a time sometimes. That couldn't be further from the truth for me personally. For me, that's counterproductive. I want to enjoy the bike when I'm out there. I don't want it to be this thing where I finish a ride and I'm like, I'm just so trashed. I can't think about riding the next day. And yeah, you have these blocks where you do need to ride with fatigue in the legs, but it's not regularly for me. But the biggest block I did for this was 3 6-hour days in a row. That's the most. Most weeks were anywhere from 15 to 25 hours, which 25 hours, I definitely feel that. For me personally, larger volume isn't necessarily the key. It's more about quality and nutrition and trying to focus on recovery. And that seems to be the golden ticket for myself.
Let's focus on those 3 aspects. I think that's a great point. Now, what do you mean in terms of quality? What is the quality work that you try to get in for these long events? So
my coach, Linda Wallenfels, most of the time, Monday through Friday is more focused on intensity. And I can get a lot of intensity in a ride from anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours, all power and heart rate based. And then the weekends are typically focused around longer rides. Zone 2 endurance, like everybody knows, you just go out there, you focus on eating. It's not too structured, but I really enjoy that too, because it changes things up. Monday through Friday is exciting. It's intense, which I really struggle with personally. And then, I really kind of go into my element on those long rides during the weekend.
Do you find yourself doing, because there's a common assumption out there that it's like, well, these are long events, so you're not going to be riding VO2 and anaerobic and that sort of stuff. So do you do any like intensity when I say high intensity, I mean above the threshold and above? Do you do a lot of that work at all?
I do. It's not super common for me. Usually how it works is I do this big base block. And then in about the month leading into a large event, I taper down on the volume and I focus on things like 30 by 30s or 4x4s at VO2. Those to me are the most painful thing I can imagine doing. And I know it's painful for everybody, but for me, it's just it's fun, but at the same time, it's the most dreaded 30 seconds or 4 minutes I can possibly imagine, just because it's something I don't work on regularly. Right. So yeah, I look forward to the change up with that.
Yeah, for sure. And 4-minute VO2 intervals. Oh my gosh, they're so hard because it's weird. This may be individual, but a lot of the time when you extend that VO2 longer into like 5-6 minutes,
yep.
And then like really once you start getting into like 8 minutes, those are really long, but it almost gets easier. You have like a weird in between point because the intensity just can't be quite as high. Mm-hmm. That 4-minute part, you can go really, really hard and just hold that. So it's so brutal.
It's so funny how in a 4-minute VO2 effort, the amount of conversations you have with yourself within 4 minutes.
It's crazy.
You go to
man, it's awesome.
You start out in a very positive in a headspace, and then all of a sudden at a minute 30, like I can't hold on to this any longer.
Yeah. And then you get to a minute and a half in and you think, well, if I feel like this, there's no way I can do more than twice what I just did.
Yeah.
Yet somehow you get to 3 minutes and then you're like, okay, I only have 1 minute left and I think I can do it somehow. Like it's incredible. Then that last 30 seconds is absolute suffing.
We as cyclists,
the tail of the VO2.
We have a good short-term memory, I guess, because we finish that 4 minutes and then you recover and you're like, I got to try it again here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What about nutrition? So how do you train first of all, do you have a nutrition goal that you try to take in, like grams of carbs per hour? And then do you try to work backwards from that in your training? Or how do you lay out nutrition for such huge events?
For me, it's about training the gut. So early in the season, before any big event, I'll go out and do long rides, and I don't focus on grams of carbs per hour, but more just calories per hour. So if I'm starting a big block for, let's say, a 24-hour solo mountain bike race, the first month is really rough on my gut because like I said, I'm having to train my gut to break this nutrition down while I'm riding. So I have a lot of like GI discomfort during and after rides particularly. But the more I work on that, the more I practice fueling regularly throughout these rides, the easier it gets. And it's not the most fun thing to get used to because everybody's been there where you're on the bike and it's either hot out and nothing sounds good, right? I do a lot of liquid nutrition on the bike because for me, it's a quick, efficient way of getting calories in. I have found for me personally, between 300 and 400 calories per hour is perfect. Anything less, I don't feel fueled enough. Anything more can cause some major GI distress. So
that's around 70 to 100 grams of carbs that you're taking in if you're taking it in like through a mix, because mix are almost predominantly carbs. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do infinite nutrition.
Sweet.
So I add a little bit of protein in there when I do my custom blend, because for me, that kind of curbs the hunger a little bit. I don't do too much protein though, because that kind of can be a gut bomb at times. But yeah, pretty high on
Do you
carbs.
do the protein in like form of BCAAs, or do you do it in form of like a whey or plant-based protein?
Both.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. So then you spend that time taking it in. These are long events. So you usually end up having like a hydration pack, and you have bottles on your frame as well. And you ride a Pivot Mach 4 SL, I would assume,
on
or
the mountain bike
Pivot
side.
Less,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And what did you ride for DK?
I rode the Pivot Vault.
Or sorry, Unbound, I should say.
Yeah, Unbound gravel. Yeah. So I rode the Pivot Vault, the gravel bike. I went with a pretty untraditional setup, honestly. That was one thing I really, really, really wanted to pay attention to, was my gear choice. Everything from tire selection to the bags I was running to the amount of calories I could bring on the bike, because I didn't have a goal of winning the race at all. My goal, plain and simple, was to finish happy and healthy. That was my only goal out there. And I knew to do that, I needed to check all the boxes in terms of a bike that was efficient, a bike that was reliable, and a way that I could stay fueled from start to finish. So I started with a pretty heavy setup. I would guess probably the heaviest setup. But I did that for a reason. And I started with 8,000 calories that I brought with me on the bike. So I did a full frame bag. I didn't have any bottles on the bike. I did a 85-ounce bladder in the frame bag and a 50-ounce bladder on my back. So I was carrying quite a bit of weight. But to me, that was almost this incentive of eating the calories that I had on the bike, because I'd be burning that fuel, you know? So it was
kind of like jettisoning weight, right? As you're going along, and it's only making you faster.
Exactly. So I had spent a lot of time training on the bike too. Even when I was doing those like 30 by 30s in a couple weeks leading up to the event, it looked really silly because I was doing it on our local climb on the road with this fully packed down bike with bags and lights and everything in the middle of the day. But for me, it was like, I might as well get used to how the bike handles, fully weighted down. There's nothing better than training on the bike you're going to race on.
Yeah, that level of specificity has got to be super important, because your bike probably handled substantially differently than when it was unloaded, right?
Totally. And you need to run different tire pressure and everything like that. So I definitely didn't want to show up and have to guess on tire pressure because the bike was weighted down more.
If you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up.
If you didn't like this video, you can give it a thumbs down, but let us know what you would have done differently in the comments below.
If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to become a faster cyclist, check out TrainerRoad.com.
Do it.